Yo, what up? What up? And welcome to another episode of Bullies, Bourbon, Beards, and Barbecue, or something like that. I made up the name, and then I never can seem to get it right. I don't think, right? So we'll figure. I'm gonna have to memorize that a little bit more. But the reason why I named it that was, of course, American Bullies are my passion, but also bourbons. Uh, Obviously, the beard. We got the beard thing going on, and then barbecue. So for a lot of you guys that don't know, before I got into American Bullies, I was real heavy into barbecue. Um, I had a smoker that I had on a trailer that I pulled behind my truck. I had a couple of really big, several $1,000 custom built smokers um, that I had, and I cooked barbecue on the weekends for friends, for people that want to barbecue and that kind of thing. And then, well, the pandemic hit, and meat prices and everything skyrocketed, that kind of thing, and demand for barbecue kind of went down. And I got my first bully, and things kind of just kind of got to where maybe I'll get out of this. As far as the business goes, I'll get out of the barbecue thing. And what's up, Dollar Bill? And and focus on the American Bully. So sold my smokers, and here we are. But um, bourbon also. I used to collect bourbons. Always trying to find the hard to find bourbons, things like that. I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos, on about Scotch and bourbons, and everything that kind of goes along with that and that kind of thing. And so I was really into collecting bourbons. I had a pretty nice collection there. And again, when I got into bullies and stuff, there's just no, you guys could probably relate. I mean, there's just no money, at least right now. I mean, there's just no money for, collecting bourbons. Uh, by and large, the top shelf bourbons, the hard to find stuff, things like that are, they're not cheap. So having a collection of bourbons is not something that fits into the budget right now at this particular juncture. But and then the beard. I used to ride Harleys, and I always wanted a big biker beard, but never felt like it was appropriate with the type of work that I did. White collar office environment, professionalism. Kind of required appearance. Good morning, Adam. Appearance kind of important, that kind of thing. And so um, when I retired, uh, even then, after for a while, it took me a while to decide to go ahead and see what the beard would, see how the beard thing would go. You know, so bullies, bourbon, beards, barbecue are really the things that I just love. Um, uh, and I get it. I mean, not everybody likes quote unquote whiskey. You know, um, I admit for a long, long, long time, uh, if I had a bourbon, it was always with a Coke or something like that. It was always mixed with something. And then I got to where I just drank it straight, out of basically out of what they would use to, nose or test bourbons, things like that. What they call a Glencairn glass. um, so, I was pretty serious into that stuff and everything. And do I have a good burnt ends recipe? So I was going to kind of get into, we're always going to talk more about bullies than we are other things, but these other things, these interests of mine, I feel like what really round me out is, kind of just my, my passions, if you will. Um, so I was gonna drop a little bit of knowledge, on barbecue tonight and the other things before we got started into our bully talk. So so Adam, as far as burnt ends go, it's not so much even really a recipe, but a method, right? So what you want to do is you want to set. Now this depends on whether you're cooking a full packer, right, or whether you're just cooking the point. But if you're cooking a full packer brisket, then what you want to do is when your brisket gets up to when it gets up to the proper temp, when your brisket is done, okay. And for those of you that don't know, I mean that's normally about 203 degrees internal temperature, okay. But what you want to feel is when you touch it, I mean you want that thing to shake like jello, all right. But what you want to do is you want to separate that point, okay, from the flat. There's that layer of fat between the two, so all you got to do is take your knife and separate that, right? And separate it from the flat, and then flip it over, and on that side that was attached to the flat, you're going to have a bunch of fat, okay. So what you want to do is you want to trim that fat off of there to where you're exposing the meat, okay. And then um, after you've cleared that away, sprinkle that side with some more of whatever rub you're using. All right. And then stick it back on your smoker. Let it caramelize a little bit. Take it out, slice it. Now, here's the important part. When Make sure, okay, when it comes time to cut that point into cubes, make sure you slice against the grain, okay? So you're going to have lines running one way. You want to make sure you cut across the grain, all right? Yeah, yeah, something like that, Adam. So then what you do, you take your cubes, you can sauce them a little bit or, however you want to do it. You can stick them back on the smoker. If you sauce them, stick them back on the smoker a little bit, let that sauce kind of caramelize, and then you've got tasty little bits of burnt ends. But the key, I feel like, to that is cleaning the fat off the side that was attached to the flat. Okay, that layer of fat. Get that off of there, right? Nobody wants to deal with that, and then re-rub it, stick it back on the smoker for a while. Okay. So, that's really the big tip. The rest of it is really, you know, kind of your personal preferences on based on the type of rub that you use. My rub for brisket is pretty darn basic. It's heavy pepper, salt, garlic, onion powder, and some cumin, right? And that's kind of my rub. That's kind of my rub for brisket. But so since we're on barbecue for a little bit, I'll just give you guys a few tips. Um, Most people nowadays, that are just kind of backyard smokers, that kind of thing. With the advent of pellet grills, um, it's not a lot of people really anymore that are using stick burners or cooking with wood. They're using the wood pellets. And here's the thing with a pellet smoker, and depending on your palate, um, a pellet smoker cooks so efficiently, right, that it doesn't impart as much smoke flavor on the meat as what you might be accustomed to. Let's say if in the past maybe you had used a stick burner or something like that, right? And so one of the things about smoking is that let's say for instance, if you always cook at say 250 or 275 degrees, um, when you reduce the temp, okay, the more you reduce the temp of the smoker, the more smoke you'll get. Okay. So if you're used to cooking at 275, you turn it down to 225, you're going to impart more smoke on the meat. You just got to, sorry guys, got some itches here. Um, you're just going to have to remember you're going to have to give yourself some more time, right, on your cook at 225 versus 275 or 250. I never smoke, hardly ever at 225. What's up? Tasty cakes. So, but that's one way with a fellow smoker to impart more of a smoke flavor is to turn the temp down. Okay. Another way is they have what they call an amazing tube, I believe. Uh, and what that is it's just a stainless steel perforated cylinder that you put pellets in, and you can light it, and then you stick it on the smoker, and you'll get more smoke. Let's talk dogs before we lose everyone. Man, you think that's all everybody's here for, Adam? Is just to talk dogs? Surely not. I mean, surely everyone has their bourbon out, right? I mean, you got to have your bourbon. If you're going to watch this show, you got to bring your bourbon. So, um, so yeah. So there's a couple barbecue tips. And then what I wanted to do is just base on I've told you guys my bourbon of choice for daily drinking is Evan Williams bottled in bond. It's white label. It's 100 proof, and it's real reasonably priced. Well, at the San Francisco whiskey uh, tasting show, Evan Williams bottled in bond won a double gold medal. Okay, so not only is it, so I'm talking $36, 32 to $36, depending on where you're buying your bourbon from, for 1.75 liter, the big jug, right, of Evan Williams bottled and bond 100 proof bourbon. 100 proof is good enough to, use to mix without getting too watered down, and also not too strong, really, just to drink straight. It's great bourbon, great value. If you're thinking about trying bourbons, something like that, something that's not going to break the bank and is top notch when it comes to quality bourbons. Very underrated, by most people. Uh, Dollar Bill, I don't have a whiskey marinade. Um, I don't really marinate anything. I just use rubs. Well, yeah, but Adam, but Johnny Walker is not a bourbon. Johnny Walker's a blended Scotch, bro. So, you know, just saying. Nothing wrong with Johnny Walker. I'm just saying. So, just giving some few tips on barbecue, but a little thing that I noticed that Evan Williams Bottle and Bond won a double gold medal. So there we go. All right. So y'all want to get the dogs? Let's get the dogs. Let's chop it up. So tonight, so a couple things. I posted it on my page on Facebook. It was an interview I did about 3 months ago with Sean O'Brien. The Bully Society. I hope I'm getting that right. Bully Society. Um, hey, that's okay. Adam, it's all right to have Irish roots, man. Ain't nothing wrong with a good Irish whiskey either, bro. Hang on just a second, guys. I want to make sure I get Sean's stuff right here. Um, Spotify. Let's go. Well, that wasn't it. That's not what I was looking for. Uh, 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 uh. I feel bad if I get it wrong. The Bulldog Social Club. See, I did get it wrong. So that was an interview that's now on Spotify that I did with Sean O'Brien with the Bulldog Social Club. And, really kind of talk about our program and things like that. I did a couple interviews with Sean, one really talking about breeding, that kind of thing, and then another one, talking about our program. So if you want to listen to it, it's on Spotify. It's also on, I'm not sure about YouTube because I know that he has a Patreon follower. You may have to subscribe, but I think on Patreon, not Patreon, on Spotify, you can listen to it for free. So go on there and check it out. Listen to me ramble on for almost 2 hours about our program. But so anyway, so that's that. And then 2 weeks from tonight, at least, what I have scheduled is Byron Hayes. Byron is an OG from way back when the American Bullies first got started. I uh, went by Boss Hog, was his basically his kennel name. Um, but I mean, he was around, when things first kicked off, and I was sitting next to him at nationals, and he was there to receive an award. Um, Him and Carlton Pratt, and some OGs that back from the very beginning, kind of celebrate ABKC's 20th anniversary. And I got to know Byron a little bit, and he liked some of the things that I had, a lot of the things that I had to say, and everything. And I'm really looking forward to having him on, kind of just tell his story. And give us some insight to the way the bully thing, was, firsthand, 20 years ago, and just kind of listen to his story. So he told me that he would be our guest 2 weeks from tonight. So hopefully nothing goes haywire to derail that, and we'll get to listen to Byron Hayes. So with that, so we'll get started with tonight as it goes with the bullies. What I really wanted to do was just talk about some general breeding strategies. I think a lot of times, you know, when you're getting started, and I get this, if you've never been a breeder of any sort before, uh, it can it can be pretty daunting. Uh, I was fortunate, that I bred horses before, and I had a good mentor, and she had access to old, Morgan Horse magazines for that went back decades, right? And every time I would go visit, I would grab some of those magazines, and I'd take them home, and I'd read them, and I'd study them, and so on, But it can be, sorry guys, I got some on my glasses. I'm a little OCD, so That bugs the shit out of me. I'll just take them off. But so anyway, uh, it can be kind of daunting. Um, when you're first starting out, and I just want to kind of cover some general breeding strategies. A lot of times you acquire that that first dog, and let's just talk about it from from a female perspective tonight. As a breeder, um, maybe you didn't really think a whole lot. Uh, well, and when you first start out, generally, I mean, and just like me, I didn't know. Uh, I didn't know the bloodlines like I know the bloodlines today. I didn't, I hadn't decided on what I wanted to do at that particular time and moment, right? And that's one of the reasons why I'm not, in terms of productions on the ground and things like that, that I'm not um, farther along than um, I would prefer to be. And it's all those things come in time, right? But with the females being so important, uh, to a breeder's program, it's important uh, to really develop a good female line, right? And you may or you may not have. So you may have a really nice female, and then when you learn about the bloodlines and everything, you're like, well, I don't know that those are the bloodlines that I really want to focus on. And um, so you're like, okay, so what do I do? Um, and what I want to do is kind of flip to brackets formula for a minute, and where he talks, Lloyd Brackett talks about, have the sire of the sire be the grandsire on the dam's side. Okay, so basically it's a 2-3 breeding. The male in the second generation on the male side is the male in the third generation on the female side. Okay. And so, but what happens if you don't really want to build on that that female that you have on that blood? That's not really what you want to model your program after. Okay. So, or that blood is not really readily available, you know, maybe the dogs have died, uh, or, when you really get doing your research and so on, you kind of look at it and it's like, you don't know that I want my program to, to be modeled after that. And so what do, right? Well, you really have you really only have two choices. So you either sell the dog and you go find what you want now that you are more informed, okay? Or what you do is you find a male that comes from the lines that you want your program to be modeled after, okay? Now, so I'm going to say some things that might go against what I normally preach, but what I'm trying to do is if you choose to keep a hold of the female and you want to make progress as quickly as possible in the direction that you now realize you want to go, this is what you do. Okay. So you find that male that you really want to model your program after. Okay. Important first step would be make sure that you've embark tested your female. Okay. Make sure that there aren't any genetic issues. So when I talk about these things, I'm going to be talking about all things being equal, all dogs are healthy. Okay. So then what you do, you should take your female, you breed to that dog. Okay. Now, so you have your puppies, and hopefully you got some females from that litter. Okay. So pick the two best females from that litter, and then you do whatever you're going to do with the rest of them. Okay. Now, now you got to wait for them to grow up. Okay. So you got 18 months to 2 years from that point till they're old enough to take the next step. Okay. Now, two ways you can go about this. One way is a little bit more controversial than the other, and I normally don't talk about it, but it truly is the fastest way to get the job done. Okay. You take that female, remember, make sure the embark testing and health testing and stuff has been done and everything is cool, right? If you still have both of those females, take one of them back to that sire if that sire is available. If that sire is not available and there is of equal quality, full brother to that sire, then you take that female to that brother. If not, if there's a half brother available or a son of that stud, then you take that female back to um, back to that, right? Back to a son. Okay. Uh, and so that is the quickest way then. So what you want is you want to get that concentration of those genes on the female side of your program, right? To build from, to have that be your foundation. Now, obviously, the quickest way would have been to buy the right dog right off the bat. But most people don't, because most people, when they get started with this, and myself included, we often don't get into this with the intent of breeding right off the bat. I don't think I didn't. And yes, Adam, health testing is a must. I didn't get, that wasn't my plan. It was at first, uh, no, don't breed siblings of the same litter. Do not do that. Okay. Now, if you want to get really dangerous, breed siblings from different litters. Okay. Never from the same litter. All right. But let's see. I kind of lost my train of thought there, guys. I lost my place. Apologize. Answering Adam's comment there. Oh, yeah, the quickest way would have been obviously to have studied the breed right off the bat. Bought a line bred female of the blood in particular that you wanted, and then start from there, right? And then you've still got your 18-month to 2 year wait, but in most cases, there's just no way to get around that unless you're fortunate enough to be able to buy a breeding age female that's exactly what you want. Those opportunities are rare, even these days. being able to buy a quality female of breeding age right off the bat. That's exactly what you're looking for. So what typically happens is we get a, we get a pet, and then we get a bright idea, about going from there and about breeding dogs. And so, Adam, when you say get back into breeding, were you breeding previously? Did you have a background in breeding some type of dog prior to getting into bullies? So anyway, so unless you can just right off the bat buy a breeding age dog, you're going to have to wait for a couple of years. With the strategy of buying a female, and the reason here, and here's why I'm talking about this tonight, guys. When I got Maggie, Champion Maggie, I was new. I didn't, I just knew she was a really good looking puppy, right? And even though, the breeders talked about the bloodlines and everything, I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, right? I just knew she was really, really good looking dog, right? So, so I bought her, and, through further research and everything, she was not a, she's not a strongly line bred dog. I mean, 5% COI. I mean, that's, so what I'm having to do is, after breeding her the first time, now I'm taking her daughters this year, two of them anyway, and breeding them to males that, I want to, one of them, of course, is Buster, and another one is, a line breed back to, the Waffle House blood. And so, but that's blood that I want. That's blood that I want later on, right? On my female side, right? So I want a higher COI of the type of blood that I like on my female line. Okay. And so I'm having to kind of build what I want from scratch instead of buying it, if that makes any sense. I didn't want to build on I didn't want to build on her sire side. Not really. Um, and she only has the one cross to Bistro on her mom's side. And so kind of having to just build what I want. And so what you want to do is you want to take the dogs that you really desire and continue to push those to the female side. Okay. And then when you get that locked in on that female side, then, then you've got something, right? But sometimes you have to build it from scratch instead of buying it. Okay. And that's the fastest way to go about doing that. Oh, okay, Adam. I got you. Pit Bull Terriers, Catahoulas. So, I was kind of forced, not forced, but Maggie was such a nice little dog, she champed out in 3 events. Just a nice little dog. But I find myself working towards breeding dogs a little bit bigger. I know a lot of people, exactly, Adam, the mitochondrial DNA. We want that. We want to push that to that distaff female line, the dogs that we want to establish the basis of our program. And I will tell you, Maggie never had to go to the vet um, for anything other than regular checkups. She never had allergy issues. She never had food issues. She never had yeast issues. She just never had any issues, period. Um, her daughters are now 20 months old. Same thing. Never sick, never any issues, no skin issues, never go to the vet other than required visits. I mean, not required. I mean, we give the we give the shots after the puppy shots and everything. We give those at home, but they never have to go. They never have to go to the vet except for, like I said, just basic stuff, right? And so um, they're extremely healthy uh, dogs, and for pockets, that's awesome. But um, I want to continue to build on the bistro, Waffle House, bus blood, if you will. And so that's what we're working, so that's what we're working on. It's taking a little bit of, it's going to take a little bit of time, but to put up, to put all that, together. But that's okay. I got three, well, now I have four Maggie daughters. And so, her second, so Maggie's first breeding, we went to Grand Champion Chicken and Waffles, Waffle House son with a bistro dam line. Okay. So we did kind of build on that a little bit on the bistro side. Went old school on the blood um, to bring in a little bit more health and athleticism, diversity. Um, Maggie's second breeding, though, I did go back um, to her sire line with the Foking Sriracha breeding and kind of built on that Rocco influence, right? And also to kind of um, those dogs are really popular. A lot of people really like that blood. Figured it wouldn't hurt to have a male if he was good enough to, use as a stud for clientele that happen to like that type of dog. Um, I did pick Sriracha over Juggernaut uh, at 10 months of age just because I liked Sriracha's tighter skin. I liked his head shape better. He was more representative of what I thought a bully should look like, as opposed to Juggernaut, who favored the bulldog look a little bit more. And so that's why I went the direction that I did. So basically, what I did was I line bred to Maggie's sire line, and I'm not unhappy with the results. I got three nice pups, and we're just waiting to see how they turn out. Adam wants to know. Let's see. So Adam wants to know about hybrid vigor. Okay. And what is hybrid vigor? Well, hybrid vigor is a way to describe the influx of differing or highly variable genetic material. So basically what we're looking at is an outcross. So and what that does is that brings in all that new genetic material and kind of just reinvigorates or revitalizes the genetics. Okay, so a lot of your top show dogs, Blue, Zero, um, these dogs are not intensely line bred dogs at all. They're outcrosses. And so there's pros and cons to the hybrid vigor. Okay. And when, you can get a phenomenal dog, right? But typically you won't have a dog. You say, like, for instance, if you're looking for a stud, you typically won't have a dog that is really dominant in the in the breeding shed, if you will. There are exceptions to that rule, but by and large, that is typically the case. Now, what you can do, and one of the reasons, obviously, hybrid vigor is going to be, or that outcross, depending on how you are managing your breeding, is going to be required on occasion every third or fourth generation, depending on how intensely you're breeding. Now, um, you can moderate that a little bit, depending if you can find the right dogs. You may have, complete outcross on 3 of the 4 major lines, right? As opposed to doing a complete 100% outcross. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but if we're just talking about a complete outcross, uh, completely different genetic material, um, then that's what hybrid vigor really is. You're basically refreshing the gene pool. You get better vitality. You get less consistency. Typically in the offspring, they're going to be can be a lot of variance. From pup to pup. But Lloyd Brackett, I talked about the Brackett formula. Didn't like outcrossing, and something to think about. Um, when you do outcross, you bring in a lot of genetic unknowns. And, if you've been developing consistency in your program for quite a while, you may not want to bring in those unknowns. It's a piece of advice when it comes to outcrossing. Well, first thing, obviously, you're going to do is you're going to select a dog that you really like. Okay, make sure that dog has a good, solid inbreeding coefficient. I'd say 20% or more. Okay, and that dog is also line bred, of course, with a higher inbreeding coefficient. The dog is going to be line bred at a minimum. And so when you're dealing with different genes, the way you can kind of hedge your bets to improve consistency in that litter is to find that outcross that has a very similar phenotype to the female that you're breeding to. Now, that can be a tall order to find a male that has different bloodlines, has a high inbreeding coefficient, but also has very similar phenotype to your female that you're breeding to. But if you can do that, that's going to help keep the phenotype variability of the puppies to a minimum. At least improve the odds, that they're still going to be pretty consistent without, just major differences, right? So then when you do that outcross, you bring in that new blood. So then, okay, well, what you were wanting to do is you kind of want to refresh your gene pool. So you go out, right? And you keep a couple of females off of that. And then you go right back to your lines, right? You go out and then you come right back in the next generation. And then you line breed, right? You keep line breeding. Now, It's important, I feel like, to develop your own outcrosses on your own yard. That way, you know what they are and what you're dealing with. Um, Basically, you know what you're going to get, right? And I'm in the process of doing that. Uh, right now, we just did the breeding with Bully Blessed Haven, 100% edge female, or real close to 100% edge female. The rest is old Gaudy blood, I think. One little cross to a Gaudy dog, but mostly very high percentage edge female to ABKC champion Bully Bless Sampson. And so when I talk about this, so this is exactly what it's not the exact same thing, but it's something that I'm planning on doing with her name is Haven, with Haven. Um, I don't know if it'll be off this breeding or if it'll be off the next one that we do. Uh, will just depend on obviously what we get from the breeding and that kind of thing. But those of you that know, about Buster, and I've talked about Buster before. Buster, is now an ABKC champion. Um, Compact, 17 inches tall, 85 pounds, 26-inch head, big, deep chest, heavy bone, but needs some, in order to be what I would consider to be a complete dog, needs some improved movement and also a little bit of help with the rear assembly in terms of angulation and so on. No dog's perfect. All dogs need a little bit of help here and there. So Haven is and put the wicket on her, but I would say she's really close to 16 inches. 15 and a half, 16 inches right in there, right? But my plan is to take Buster to one of the females off of either this breeding or the next breeding. Okay. Now that yields a pretty low inbreeding coefficient. They're so dissimilar, right? But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take his daughter, right? Of course, appropriately after genetic testing and everything. I'm going to take his daughter right back to him. Okay. So what I want to do is I want Buster, right? But I want an improved Buster. And so taking a daughter of his back to him is the best way that I know to uh, allow that to happen. Buster stud fee 1,700 to approve females. That's with your commission, though, right, Adam? So, and with that, I'm going to jump over to my software for a minute and let me know if when I jump over, you guys could still see me. You should be able to still see me. I should still be broadcasting, but I wanted to jump over here and because I did model that, and I wanted you to know exactly. I wanted you to know exactly what that was. Um, all right. So if I go to Buster and I go to trial matings, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go a different route here. System's running a little slow tonight. So, Buster to Haven. Hmm. Hang on a second, guys. I gotta try to find it here. Ah, here it is. Okay, so by doing that, in this particular case, I get everything is slow and take forever. So I get an inbreeding coefficient of 27.89. So I got Autumn in the computer. So by taking Buster back to one of his daughters, say in this particular case from the Haven Sampson breeding, um, with the with what we're starting out with, which is a lot of genetic diversity. Um, I can still take him back to a daughter and end up with an inbreeding coefficient of less than 30%. And that's on paper. Again, the important parts would be, we want to make sure that we genetically test the dogs before we do this. We want to make sure that we're using the best specimens, of course, before we do this kind of thing. And then we understand that there's still a risk, right, of recessive traits catching up with us and kicking us in the ass. But you know, if you want to build your own, on your own yard, and you have a dog that, for instance, like I said, like Buster, that just needs to be a little bit better, but you know, he's a great dog, right? Then then you have to do some things like this in order to accomplish that goal. And we'll see whether it works out or not. But that's how you would do it. Is you would take one of his own daughters back to him, and that's a really good way, um, to accomplish that goal. Um, and so we're gonna, I don't advocate for inbreeding hardly ever, except in certain circumstances. In a circumstance such as this, right? As a general rule, I like pretty light line breeding, which is why I use the analysis software so I can keep things pretty cool. Honestly, really, and the advantage of having software that allows you to do these modelings and everything is that you know you can you can really see where those numbers are at, and you can continue to line breed without having to go completely outside of your lines, without having to do that complete outcross, because you know where your inbreeding coefficients are. And so That's one of the services that I offer is the the breeding consultations and so on. So Adam, since you're the only one that seems to be doing any commenting around here, when I was off looking for um, that stuff on my software, could you still see me broadcasting? I'm going to upgrade on StreamYard so I can show you guys forms and pictures and things like that. But uh, I just hadn't done it yet. So let me know, Adam, if you could still see me while I was off looking for that stuff on software. I'm waiting on you, Adam. What are you doing? Adam must have went to the fridge to get a snack. Oh, so man, I tell you what, I don't know what's wrong with the Wi-Fi around here. I'm lagging. That sucks. Um, so were you still able to see me while I was in the software? Yeah, there is a lag for sure. I don't know why our Wi-Fi gets so slow at night. Okay, you were able to see me good. It was showing camera was still on and everything. I just want to make sure. So one of the things that I wanted, one of the things that I wanted to do tonight is basically was to do a free COI consultation for anybody that maybe had a pairing that they had pre-prepared or anything, and and then we could do a little consultation of the results afterwards. So the key would be that I'd already have to have those dogs pretty much in the software, or at least have that dog's parents in the software. But if there's something that you want me to model, and then we can discuss it, then we can definitely do that. So, but the whole point of tonight really was that's kind of what was on my mind was, really what I'm having to do in my own yard right now by starting out with, on my pocket line, when you get that first generation dog and you want to build something from it, you've got to figure out how you want to go about building from that first generation dog. And then if based on the pedigree and everything of that dog, if you don't want to build that and you want to build towards a bit of a different type of dog, then you've got a couple of decisions to make. You build it yourself, or you just scrap it and you go buy a dog from from those bloodlines. Now depend and here's the other thing, and money, like it or not, money plays a role. Okay. um Maybe it might be cheaper, probably maybe it would have been cheaper for me to just be more patient, scrap the dog, um, and then just go buy a dog from the bloodlines that I really wanted to buy a dog from, type deal, right? Um, except Maggie was an exceptional little dog, right? Um, I didn't pay an exorbitant amount of money for, but I mean, I paid 3 grand for her. So for me, that was not just a drop in the bucket. So just to turn and walk away from her, especially when she champed out before she was even a year old, I wasn't going to just walk away from that. And she's a really cool dog, but I needed to kind of pick which way I wanted to go with her, and I opted to go to the old school side of her pedigree and start to build from there. So, building it yourself, while it may take a little bit longer, it doesn't require as much, you know, out of pocket dollars, one lump sum in the moment. And then not only that, if you build it yourself, while it may take a little bit longer, you're really intimately familiar with what you have, right? In terms of temperament, um, just the complete dog is, are there issues with the dog, that kind of thing, like I'm talking about. Never had any issues with Maggie, as far as, multiple vet visits, things like that. And, she was perfectly healthy, these types of things. When you go buy a puppy, um, let's just say, right? Say you went and spent, you know, 10 grand from the dog puppy for, the lines that, now you figured out that's what you want to do, right? Because it could very well could cost you, 6 to 10 grand, for a line bred dog from a reputable program. Okay. But then what happens if that dog has issues? When you buy it from a puppy, you don't know and they don't know, right? Parents may have been fine, but that puppy may have issues, and you just don't know. So when you build it yourself, you're more intimately familiar with all the details, everything about that dog. And I just feel, I have four daughters of Maggie's right now, and I'm just really happy with the way that they've turned out. I'm happy with how healthy they are and everything, and they're great dogs to build a pocket line on. Now, the important part is the next step, the next choices, right, that I make. And we're taking the biggest one to Buster this year. And then we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna take and then the next one, we'll take her to Grand Champion John Wayne. We'll lion breed some Waffle House, but still with, John Wayne's mom's side is, shit, what's that dog's name? Uh, Shamrock. Okay. So Dax blood, right? Still on the Shamrock side. And these dogs have, trying to think. Let's see. Hang on just a second. I'll tell you. Dogs. Dogs. Genealogy. Analysis. 13. So, so Maggie's daughters have 13 crosses to Dax. Now, obviously, I've seen a lot more, and a lot less. But so 3 of Maggie's daughters have 13 crosses, and the other one, Bella, and Bella has 24 crosses to Dax. So, So we'll so Shamrock is Dax, and so so we'll add some there, and that's fine. So we'll be line breeding to Waffle House. We'll be line breeding to Waffle House and Dax when we do that breeding, you know. But and then Sadie, the shortest, stockiest one, still haven't decided. Share some sauce recipes. Man, I'm not sharing my recipes, giving away that kind of stuff for free. What you talking about, Willis? I will tell you that my barbecue sauce is vinegar based. How's that? It's vinegar based with ketchup and brown sugar and then a whole bunch of other stuff. So how's that for a recipe? There you go. I give my rest. Hey, man, I can't even afford I yeah, I can't even afford to make my own barbecue sauce anymore. Ingredients have gone up so much. It's ridiculous. Um, and this is no joke, guys. Uh, it costs ingredient costs going to Walmart $70 to make a gallon of barbecue sauce. So, I mean, my favorite store brand of barbecue sauce is Sweet Baby Ray's. So, but I make a Carolina style barbecue sauce. That's my favorite. So, but yeah, I'm not giving my recipe away, man. It's damn good barbecue sauce. So sorry about that. I won't give my recipe away on any of my rubs. So I make my own rubs for my chicken wings, my ribs. I have different recipes: chicken wings, ribs, pulled pork, brisket. Let's see. Well, and the chicken wings are the same, for chicken. Closed your wing restaurant after 14 years. It's bad out here. And where are you at now? But yeah, bad out here in general. Just the restaurant business and stuff is tough. And matter of fact, I was at the store today, and now this is not Walmart. I'm sure Walmart's a little bit cheaper, but probably similarly priced to my meat market back in my hometown where I was at. But ribeyes were $22 a pound. Charlotte, okay, $22 a pound for ribeye. It's crazy. I don't know what. I know I was paying 25% over wholesale at the meat market where I got my stuff. And I think last time, I think wings are right around still between $4 and 4.25 a pound. Now, and a pound was roughly eight either flats or drummies, right? Um, so wings used to be $1.99 a pound. It's it's crazy how much meat's gone. Hot wing challenge. But I have a dry rub that I use for chicken wings, and I smoke my wings so what I do with my wings is I put them on the smoker, indirect heat, of course, and then but then I smoke them between 325 and 350 degrees. And the reason for that is those of you that know, you have to have high heat to render that fat out so you don't have rubbery skin. Okay. So, so I cook it on high indirect heat, and man, them wings turn out great every time. But I use a dry rub. I don't use sauce on my wings. I don't like to eat chicken wings with sauce out in public. I don't like the mess. Okay, I don't mind it. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons I don't eat ribs in public either. It's one of those things that I just don't do. But so that's one of the reasons why I came up with the dry rub for chicken wings. Um, and Yeah, you still get a little messy, but not anything like you do with wings that have been tossed in sauce. Yeah, now I can imagine, the margins. Um, typically what you would do, pricing wise and everything, is you would take whatever the cost is. Let's say that the wholesale price of your meat was $5 a pound. You would sell it for three times that, so $15 a pound, and that would cover all your overhead and some profit. But you have that that's ideal, but then you have you're really having to be at the mercy of the market and what other competitors are charging. And depending on where you're at in the process and everything, you may or may not be able to compete at that level. And so, yeah, it's sauces for dipping. I don't disagree with you, but you know how a lot of the wing places are. They toss your wings in the sauce, right? Of course, I guess it's all how you want them served up, right? But yeah, restaurant business is tough right now, man. I mean, just that's like when I was in barbecue, and that was one of the reasons I quit offering brisket. What's up, Brahma Bull? Yeah, man, we're doing good. Um, if I was going to keep selling brisket, I'd have to sell it for $30 a pound, and that was just to cover my cost. That wasn't me making any money. Um, Brisket was outrageous at the time. Um, I was it was you were talking about spending 140 $145 for a pack of brisket, you know, and you might end up with uh, 8 pounds of meat that you could actually sell, 6 to 8 pounds of meat that you could actually sell. So you've got to pay for that. You got to pay for that 140 $150 brisket, with just 6 pounds of meat. So you're having to charge $30 a pound for brisket. People just weren't going to pay that, you know. So I quit offering brisket. Um, I love brisket, but my goodness, it's so expensive. It used to be the cheapest cut of meat on the cow, and now they're selling the shit like steak. And while brisket can be every bit as good or even better than a steak, the time, just the sheer time that it takes to get a brisket to where it's that good is just insane. You know, I mean, the amount of wood or pellets or whatever that you have to use to smoke a brisket for 18 to 24 hours to get it the way that you want it. I mean, everything is just, and I have to tell you guys, everything's gotten more expensive, just unreal, right? I would rather, I'd rather smoke a pork butt all day long, and just in terms of, um, the profit opportunity if you're selling it, and I mean, you can cook an 8 pound pork butt in 8 to 10 hours, you know, to an internal temp of about 195 to 198 degrees. So that was a tip I was going to give you guys too on like for instance. So pork butt, if you're starting out, especially starting out in barbecue, pork butt is, while it may be intimidating, is one of the easiest cuts of meat actually to smoke because it's really hard to screw up. It's a big old chunk of meat, right? And even if your temps vary and that kind of thing, it's really still really hard to screw up. The important thing is that you can tell when a pork butt's done is there's a blade bone in there, right? You should be able to just easily pull that blade bone out of that pork butt. Um, I would recommend anybody that is doing barbecue to get yourself a Thermopin uh, or something. An instant read thermometer, right? Something very similar, either a Thermopin or something very similar to that. It's very quick reading temperatures, things like that. Until you learn to cook by feel, um, and I'm pretty darn good at it. Uh, yes, the butt is actually a shoulder, Adam. That's correct. It's the upper part of the leg or the shoulder, right? So on the shoulder, you have technically you have what they call the butt. Yeah. So you got the shoulder, and then what you usually have, what you see is you have the butt, which is the upper part of the shoulder, and then what they call the picnic, which is the lower part. Okay. So there's that. But so we get yourself a Thermopin until you can learn to cook by feel. And even though I can pretty much cook by feel. I still like knowing that I have the exact temperature of the meat that I want it at before I pull it off the grill or the smoker, right? Um, yeah, I don't blame you, Brahma Bull. Um, man, brisket's forever, man. And I mean, and they can be so finicky. There's such a fine line between a great piece of meat and something that's kind of dried out. But it's ridiculous what they're getting for briskets, full packer briskets these days. So, another thing is, when it comes to beef, when you're smoking, never cook anything less than choice. Um, you know, if you can get prime, great. Prime's usually only about 10 cents a pound more, but it, don't cook that select shit. Don't get your meat at Walmart. Find some other place. Um, man, but those are just, I don't understand what you're talking about when you're talking about chuck roll, Adam. It's not a term I'm familiar with. But yeah, get yourself a Thermopin. Even when it comes to steaks, cooking a steak on the grill, I mean, you can overcook a steak, even a hamburger, right? I mean, most people uh, overcook their hamburgers, right? Um, so if you get yourself a Thermopin or some kind of instant read thermometer, you can make sure that you're taking your meat off the grill or the smoker at the right temperatures, and pork loins, real easy to overcook if you're not paying attention. 145 degrees for pork is right where you want it, man. It'll still be juicy, won't be dried out. You know, steaks, of course, I like to cook my steaks to about 140 degrees. I don't like mine raw. I just like them medium. Yeah, most hamburger patties anymore are just cooked to death. Um, I usually cook my hamburger patties to about 155 degrees. Still got a little bit of got a little bit of pink in there, but not too much. But so like I said, if you're not an experienced griller, barbecuer, because it takes years to be able to just really be able to cook by feel. Um, get you invest in one of those. Uh, it'll save you from running some meat. So just my recommendations, right, on that. But so nobody had a test mating or anything pre-prepared for the live for me to model or anything tonight. So that's too bad. Really wanted to do one on the live tonight and kind of go over it, but that's okay. But tonight was just so. One thing I would task, I hate to say task, but okay, let's, if you're really interested, you can go into the internet and you can learn, you can read about Lloyd Brackett. And Mr. Brackett was around in the 40s, 50s, more prominent in the 50s, bred German Shepherds. But the cool thing about him was, he bred 90, like 90 champions, AKC champions in a span of 12 years by using his formula. Now, it he was, and keep in mind, guys, well, you didn't tell me, well, that's what you were trying to do, Adam. I didn't know what autumn meant. So is she an XL? She's an XL, isn't she? I apologize, Adam. I didn't know that's what you were trying to do, brother. When you said it, when you asked, did you have autumn in the in the database? I didn't know what in the world you were talking about. So I see what you're saying. You got autumn in the computer, but I didn't catch what you were saying. Um, but I can tell you if autumn is an XL, then the likelihood of me having her in any of even her parentage information in my database is pretty slim. I have done over 8,000 dogs in my database now, and I have done exactly uh, four uh, test matings for XLs. So, I guess XL community is not too interested in, understanding COIs and how it can be utilized and it applies to their program. So I apologize for misunderstanding what you were getting at there, Adam. But what I was going to say about Lloyd Brackett was he was very stringent in the dogs that, when he had puppies and everything, and the evaluation of those dogs, he kept very meticulous records um, and things. And so, if you're going to kind of follow that format, read up on it, study it, and then, you have to have the discipline to really follow and do the things that he did. Okay. So don't just pick and choose the things here and there that he did that, that maybe you decide to adopt. It's kind of like, he had a process and it was very robust. And if you decide to go down that route, while you can be successful, you need to employ the same strategies that he utilized. So, guys, with that, it's almost 10:30. I'm going to get off here. Uh, please like, subscribe, share the video. Really appreciate it. Noticed I had, hey, I got like 50 subscribers, which is awesome. Well, so Adam, give me what's her sire's name? YouTube Brahma. Yeah, I know my dogs are barking, man. Is that your dog's actual registered name? I need the actual registered name, Adam. So when I put dogs in my database, I use their exact registered names. That way, when there's small differences, as opposed to a kennel name, there's small differences, I can make sure that I have the right dogs. So, okay, you send me her Pedro. All right, guys. Well, like I said, like I asked, please like, subscribe, um, share the video. Like I said, up to 50 subscribers or maybe more on the page, which, hey, that's awesome. Um, didn't expect to even have that many. So that's cool. I do greatly appreciate you guys tuning in, spending time with me, talking a little bit about dogs. Like I said, now in a couple of weeks, we'll have Byron Hayes on. We'll sit down and we'll visit with him. And, going forward, I hope to have, people a little more interesting than myself on here to to talk about these dogs. One thing I did talk about in today's live, um, in April in Ardmore, Oklahoma, there is going to be a WBA show. For those of you that may be a little disenfranchised about the judging and so on in the ABKC arena, um, you might want to give the WBA an opportunity there, and yours truly will be emceeing. Which basically I'm just going to be announcing the classes, but I'll be there. I'll be emceeing. I'll be the guy on the mic. If nothing else, it may be very entertaining, But come out and support the WBA here in the state of Oklahoma in April. I'll have more details as details come out. I want to say it's the third weekend in April. I believe the 17th. But anyway, that's another recent development as of today. I volunteered to MC. So y'all be cool. We'll catch you again in a couple of weeks on Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Y'all be good.